be in this building, in this room, among all of you. And you treat me that well when I step out here, and I'm very grateful to have the privilege to say some things. And I don't want to compress it into a way that adds meaning to the balance of what you'll hear here tonight and about religious freedom and the victims of the persecution. But first, I think we need to understand about this great country that we are. I profoundly believe God shaped this nation with His hand. And that He sent the pilgrims and the other settlers over here to this continent, like many moved our founding fathers around like men on a chessboard to shape this great nation. And He did a lot of things in the many centuries before that to prepare the groundwork so we could be this great nation. And I would take you back to Mosaic law. God sent Moses up the mount to come down with the tablets, Mosaic law. Now, I would not know that many centuries later I'd find myself wanting to hear the arguments before the Supreme Court on whether or not we had enough religious liberty to set the tablets up in places like Texas. And that was the month of June, as I recall, but it was a bright day, and in about 2005, I slipped over there to the Supreme Court building. I had a little permission slip from the justices to hear the oral arguments before the court. The crowd out front was so thick, the only way I could get to the front door was to climb through the hedge. A bright sunny day, I climbed through the hedge. I go up to the door of the Supreme Court. My pupils are all shrunken down as they are. Opened the door into the darkness. There stood a white shirt. That's all I could see. And I said, I'm Congressman Steve King here to hear the arguments on the 10 Commandments before the Supreme Court. And the man whom I couldn't see, only see his white shirt, he said in a deep voice, he said, I'm Moses, and I'm here to lead you. No kidding. No kidding. And he's led me in since. Moses led me in and Moses led me out. What I didn't know was that up in front of that courtroom was going to be the Solicitor General of the state of Texas. And that was 10 years ago. The Attorney General is now the Governor of the state of Texas. Solicitor General is now a United States Senator, sitting in the front row here tonight as a candidate for the United States presidency. Now, I'm tempted to say the Lord works in mysterious ways, but I don't think it's that mysterious. I think it's obvious. And so I'm grateful that I've had that chance to connect this continuum of history. But I remember a Democrat state senator saying to me, why would you think that America is God-shaped by the hand of God, that it was His divine guidance? And I believe it was His divine guidance that shaped America. He said they were deists, it was an accident of history, it's simply the evolution of the species of humanity. Could have happened in some other planet, someplace else in the universe. I can't accept that at all. Mosaic law went to Greeks, and the Greeks thought they had law, but it actually came from Moses. And Roman law was what Jesus asserted when He stood before the high priest, when He said he had a right to face his accusers, and he was innocent until proven guilty. Remember when He said to the high priest, Caiaphas, he said, Jesus, did you really preach those things? Did you say those things? And Jesus said, ask them. And He pointed to his accusers. Ask them, they were there. And the guard struck Jesus for his insolent answer. But the answer was, he had a right to face his accusers. And then Jesus said, if I have spoken wrongly, you must prove the wrong. But if I've spoken rightly, why do you punish me? Innocent until proven guilty. Flows from Mosaic law through the Greeks through Roman law, which was spread all across Western Europe. There, the birth of Christ gave us redemption and all the wonderful things that we know that came from Jesus, that flows out of the Spirit within us to this day. That all was a foundation laid across Western Europe with Roman law. Went into the Dark Ages. They forgot how to think for a few centuries. They brought that back again because the Bible was protected and preserved, and they had to relearn how to think. But there was the foundation of free enterprise capitalism that was published in 1776 by Adam Smith that came over here to this country too. And we had the Puritans. We had a concept of manifest destiny to settle this continent from sea to shining sea at the dawn of the Industrial Revolution with unlimited natural resources. And we did so in the blink of an historical eye. And we became the unchallenged greatest nation in the world. How could anybody think that that's not the hand of God? Did they understand that then? Our founding fathers did. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creators with certain unalienable rights. We know they knew that. They wrote that down and placed their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor on it. But 1865, February 12th, the Civil War wasn't over. It was Lincoln's last birthday on Sunday. The first black person allowed to speak in the United States Capitol building when members of Congress believed that Lincoln had just freed the slaves a little before that, and they believed that they should have a sermon and a religious service there. And they invited Reverend Henry Highland Garnett to deliver that sermon in the United States Capitol. And I've taken just some excerpts from it. It takes about 40 seconds, but I think it's really important to hear how a former slave, then pastor of the 15th Street Presbyterian Church, February 12, 1865, with his background, he understood and he spoke to the members of Congress this religious freedom. He's speaking of the founding fathers. They have received from the court of heaven the Magna Carta of human rights that was handed down through the clouds and amid the lightnings of Sinai and given again by the Son of God on the Mount of Beatitudes while the glory of the Father shone around them. They tell us that from the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution they have obtained a guarantee of their political freedom, and from the Bible they derive their claim to all the blessings of religious liberty, freedom to worship God. I recommend that you Google Reverend Henry Highland Garnett and read that entire hour-and-a-half long speech. Put yourself in the mindset of that place and that time, Lincoln's last birthday, near the end of the Civil War, and the abolitionists and the freedom that a freed slave understood about rights coming from God, and think, do our children know this? Will our grandchildren learn this? Will we know that this culture, this civilization must understand the principle that rights come from God. If they come from government, government can take them away. They're unalienable. And I challenge all of us, step up and defend your rights that come from God, that are enshrined in the Declaration and the Constitution. Be not afraid. Be bold, be noble. Step up to the pulpit and preach the Word. And if they come along and take away your 501c3 not-for-profit status, was anybody in this for a profit anyway? Why would you fear the IRS? And if you want a little help, call me. I'm there in spirit. I'll pray with and for you. And if you want me there physically, I'll come stand next to you. I don't need to stand next to you. I know you're there and you're bold. But we've got to be confident. And I recall a time when I was giving a speech out on the courthouse in Sioux County, Iowa. And an individual came out from the courthouse and he said, you can't speak here. This is election year and we have elections here in November. See, Representative Dwayne Alon said, well, if you can't exercise your right here on the courthouse lawn, can you tell me where in the world can you? So I'm glad that we are standing here today, that we're going to hear these stories and these narratives and continue with that. I'm glad we have a leader who has stepped up for our religious freedom, defended the words under God, Hobby Lobby, the Ten Commandments, over and over again, both sides, all things in truth. Pray and to learn and to go out of here energized to step up and defend our constitutional rights. If we don't use them, we will lose them. Thank you very much. Oh, and I'm going to introduce also, there will be a video that follows me. Kelly Shackelford, who was another top attorney out of Texas, and he heads up the Liberty Institute, one of the top constitutional lawyers in our country. He's going to talk to you a little bit about religious liberty and defending religious liberty. Thank you very much. God bless you all.